Oh my goodness, is he dead?
Wait, he's still breathing. Oh God, what do I do? New York never sleeps, and it never shuts up. But the narrow back alley off Queens Boulevard was its own kind of quiet. The kind that made you feel like the city had forgotten about you. A single street lamp flickered on and off above the cracked asphalt, throwing weak yellow light across the road. Joey Walker gripped the steering wheel and kept her eyes straight ahead. 12 hours on her feet, her soles burning, her eyelids heavy as wet laundry. The radio played something upbeat that she couldn't hear. All she wanted was to get home, collapse on the couch, and not exist for 8 hours. That was when it happened. A heavy thud. The car lurched to a stop. Joey slammed the brakes and screamed a short, sharp sound that bounced off the alley walls. Her heart shot into her throat. She got out, legs already unsteady, and looked at the front of the car. A man was lying in the road. He was dressed sharply, dark coat, white shirt, tie still knotted at his collar, and he wasn't moving. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. She ran to him, dropped to her knees, grabbed his wrist. There was a pulse. He was breathing. A thin line of blood traced down from his hairline. But the wound didn't look deep. She looked up. The alley was empty. The street lamp flickered again. Joey pulled out her phone and started to dial 911. Her thumb stopped over the call button. No license, no insurance. And the car belonged to her roommate, Tamzin. If she called now, everything unraveled. Her job, her apartment, her visa renewal, all of it gone like smoke. Her mind moved fast. The man on the ground still hadn't stirred. She pressed her lips together. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. But I don't have a choice right now. She hooked her arms under his and pulled. He was heavier than he looked. His tie caught in the car door. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Somehow she got him into the back seat. Then she got behind the wheel and drove through the Queen's night with an unconscious stranger in her car. Joey's apartment was on the top floor of a 3-story walk-up. No elevator. Stairs too narrow for 2 people side by side. She half dragged, half carried him up every single step. By the time she got him onto the couch, she had nothing left. She slid down the wall and sat on the floor with her back against it, heart hammering. The man lay still on the cushions, chest rising and falling. She went to the kitchen, soaked a dish towel in cold water, and pressed it against the cut on his head. Shallow. Thank God. Please don't die. Okay? You can't die. She whispered it like a deal she was trying to make. Up close, he was younger than she'd expected. Early 30s, maybe? With sharp features and a calm face, even in unconsciousness. There was a wallet in his coat pocket, but she left it alone. She didn't want to know anything yet. Morning came. Joey had fallen asleep on the floor beside the couch and woke up with a stiff neck and a knot of dread in her chest. She sat up. The man's eyes were open. He was staring at the ceiling, absolutely still, like he wasn't sure if the ceiling was real. When Joey moved, he turned his head and looked at her. Hi, you're alive. That's good. He didn't answer. He studied her for a long moment, then slowly opened his mouth. 여기가 어디예요? Korean. Joey blinked. He tried again, this time in English, careful, slightly accented. Here. Where is this? Joey took a breath. My apartment. Last night I found you collapsed in the road. You weren't. I didn't hit you or anything. You were just there. The last part was a lie, delivered as smoothly as she could manage. The man tried to sit up and immediately pressed a hand to his forehead. Joey caught his arm before he could tip sideways. Do you have a name? Someone I can call? He looked at her. There was something hollow in his eyes. Not fear, not confusion exactly, just a kind of emptiness she didn't have a word for. I don't know. You don't know what? My name. Who am I? Joey's mouth opened. He wasn't performing. He wasn't scared. He just genuinely, completely didn't know. She sat back down on the floor. Amnesia. The word sounded ridiculous. The kind of thing that happened in soap operas, not in her living room at 7 a.m. She pressed both palms over her face. She'd already made the worst decision of her life last night. Now she had to make another one. If she took him to a hospital, they'd find out who he was. If they found out who he was, they'd find out how he got here. She looked at him. He was staring at his own hands, like they belonged to someone else. Okay, you're not dead, so that's something. She said it mostly to herself. If you don't have a name, I'll give you one. Jay. You look Korean, so Jay. We'll go with that for now. He lifted his eyes to her. Jay. Yeah, Jay. Get some rest. A few days passed. Jay moved from the couch to the bedroom, Joey's bedroom, and Joey took the couch. His headaches faded. He turned out to be functional in most of the ways that mattered. Coherent, multilingual, and, it turned out, a decent cook. He just had no idea who he was or where he'd come from. Joey noticed the changes, slowly. The dishes were done when she got home. The pile of mail on the counter had been sorted. The kitchen light, which had been flickering for 2 weeks, had been replaced. Where'd you get the bulb? Convenience store downstairs. I walked around a little. With what money? Jay reached into his coat pocket and produced a wallet. Several cards inside, all neatly arranged. Joey took it, opened it, closed it. There were names on the cards. She decided not to look. Not yet. Tamzin came home 2 days later. She opened the front door, saw a man she didn't recognize reading quietly on the couch, and screamed. Joey sprinted out of the bathroom and pulled her into the kitchen before she could say anything else. She explained in a rapid whisper. Tamzin's eyes got very wide. You hit someone and brought them home. Keep your voice down. Joey. He had nowhere to go. Just until his memory comes back. It'll be fast. Tamzin stared at her for a long moment, then edged the kitchen door open an inch and peered into the living room. Jay was still on the couch, still reading. Perfectly calm. Tamzin let the door swing shut. He's kind of ridiculously good looking. Tamzin, I'm just saying. Joey covered her face with both hands. 2 weeks in, a quiet routine had settled over the apartment. Joey came home from her shift with a container of leftover food from the restaurant. Jay met her at the door, took it from her without being asked, and lifted the lid to smell it. He gave a small nod of approval. Long day? Joey sat down and started pulling off her shoes. Is it that obvious? You're dragging your feet. She laughed, a short, tired sound. From the kitchen came the low hiss of a pot being put on the stove. Joey leaned her head back against the couch cushion and looked at the ceiling. It was strange. The situation was a mess, complicated and frightening, and not remotely resolved. But sitting here right now, listening to someone heat up soup in her kitchen, she felt, against all logic, okay. Jay's memory came back on the night of the 3rd week. He woke suddenly, sitting up in the dark. A dream fragments assembling themselves into something coherent. Seoul. A high-rise office. His father's voice. A conference room. A business card with his name on it. Cha Jae-min, second son of Cha Group's chairman. He'd been in New York on a business trip, gone out for a walk late at night after a few drinks, and then he sat on the edge of the bed and didn't move for a long time. From the living room, he could hear Joey snoring softly. He got up and looked through the gap in the door. She was on the couch, her blanket half kicked off, fast asleep, the same couch she'd been sleeping on for 3 weeks, so he could have her bed. He watched her for a moment. Then he eased the door shut. Tomorrow. He'd tell her tomorrow. Tonight, just tonight. You saved my life. That means it belongs to you now. Morning. Joey was in the kitchen scrambling eggs when she heard Jay come out of the bedroom. She started to say good morning and stopped. His face was different. The blankness was gone. These were the eyes of someone who knew exactly where he was and why. It came back, didn't it? It wasn't really a question. Jay pulled out a chair at the kitchen table and sat down. Joey brought the eggs over and sat across from him. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Cha Jae-min, he said. Second son of Cha Group. Seoul. Joey set down her fork. Cha Group. She knew that name. There was a Cha Group building in Koreatown. As in the conglomerate? That's what people tend to call it. Joey let out a slow breath. Her brain was already running the numbers. He remembers. So now Hell want to leave. Hell call his family. And then the Hell ask how he ended up here. She pressed her hands flat against her thighs under the table. You'll need to contact your family. I will, he nodded. Then he looked at her steadily. But first, is there something you want to tell me? Joey's shoulders stiffened. Jay didn't look away. It came back, all of it, including the part with the car. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I hit you that night. It wasn't on purpose, but I couldn't call 911. No license, no insurance, and the car wasn't even mine. I thought you were dead, so I brought you here. She held his gaze. I know how that sounds. Jay looked at her for a long moment. You saved my life, he said quietly. That means it belongs to you now. Jerry blinked. Sorry, what was that last part? Thank you. No, after that. Jay cut into his eggs like this was a perfectly normal conversation. It's a Korean expression. Means I owe you a life debt. He glanced up. If you want to press charges, you can. Though it would be inconvenient for me too. I was drunk and wandering around at midnight on a work trip. My father finding out about that would be its own problem. Jerry stared at him. Then she started laughing, a helpless, exhausted laugh. So you're saying we should just keep each other's secrets? That's one way to put it. That afternoon, Jay made a call to Seoul. He told them the trip had been extended. Personal business. His assistant pushed back twice. Jay shut it down each time. After he hung up, he sat back on the couch and looked at the ceiling. Joey was at the table sorting through a stack of receipts. The apartment was quiet. Why aren't you leaving? She asked, not looking up. It would be strange to disappear all at once. You've been here 3 weeks. A little longer won't hurt. Joey kept her eyes on the receipts. Ask Tamzin. It's not my call. By the time Jay had been there over a month, the apartment had quietly transformed. The refrigerator was actually stocked. Jay had started doing the grocery runs, Korean market, 2 stops on the subway, back before Joey got home. Every morning there was something warm on the stove. Every evening Joey came back to a plate waiting for her. Tamzin was openly delighted by all of it. Joey, I love this man. He can stay forever. Tamzin, I am begging you. Jay heard them from the kitchen and smiled without making a sound. Joey turned her head so she wouldn't have to see it. She'd already seen it. One Sunday afternoon, neither of them had anywhere to be. They sat at the kitchen table doing their own things. Joey working through next month's budget, Jay writing something in a notebook. After a while, Joey put down her pencil and sighed. What's wrong? I'm $120 short. This month. Jay reached for his wallet. Joey raised a hand. Don't. I'm just lending it. I said don't. He put the wallet away. Joey went back to the calculator. Jay watched her for a moment, then said, very quietly, I'm covering food anyway. Just use that money for rent. Joey kept her eyes on the screen. The tips of her ears went pink. It rained on a Tuesday night. Joey hadn't brought an umbrella. She came up the stairs soaking wet, wringing water out of her jacket sleeve, and found Jay standing in the 3rd floor hallway, holding an umbrella. How did you know? Weather app. She pushed her wet hair out of her face and looked at him. He held the umbrella out. She was already drenched. She took it anyway. They stood side by side in the narrow hallway while rain drummed against the roof above them. When are you going back to Korea? I'm not sure. Not sure as in you don't know, or not sure as in you don't want to. Jay didn't answer. Joey didn't push. The rain filled the silence between them, and for a while that was enough. That night, Joey told Tamzin everything. I think something's wrong with me. Because the idea of him leaving feels weird. Like, too quiet. Tamzin was sitting across from her in a sheet face mask, utterly still. Then Joey, that's called having feelings for someone. No, it's not. It absolutely is. It's not. He's a billionaire. He's gorgeous. He cooks. If you don't have feelings for him, that's the weird part. Joey pulled a pillow over her face. Tamzin patted it gently. Hey, just don't waste it, okay? No answer from under the pillow. Tamzin got up and went to bed, smiling to herself. The full picture came out because of a coat. Joey was doing laundry and found a business card in Jay's coat pocket. Cha Jae-min, Executive Vice President, Cha Group, Seoul headquarters. English name printed neatly below the Korean. Executive Vice President. She set the card on the kitchen table. Jay came out of the bedroom and saw it. Their eyes met. Did you know? You told me your name. You told me it was Char Group, but not the title. A beat. No, not the title. Joey sat down. Something was clicking into place, and she didn't like the shape it made. Shed started to have feelings for this man that much she couldn't argue with anymore. And he was from a completely different world, and she had hit him with a car. You shouldn't have ended up here. Why not? Someone like you doesn't belong in a place like this. You never did. Jay came around the table and sat across from her. He didn't look away. Stop treating yourself like a criminal. You're the first person I've ever fallen for. Joey's eyes went wide. Jay's expression didn't change. 3 weeks with no memory. You were the kindest person in my world. That's all there is to it. Joey was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up. I hit you with my car. I was scared, so I didn't call for help. I took care of you because I felt guilty. That's the whole story. You can't call that falling for someone. It's not the whole story. It is for me. She went to her room and closed the door. Jay sat alone at the table. The business card was still there. Face up. Cha Jae-min, Executive Vice President. He turned it over. The next morning, Jay was gone. The couch was made. His mug was washed and in the drying rack. On the kitchen table, there was a folded note, written in careful English. Thank you for everything. Jay. Under the note, $120. Exactly the amount she'd been short on rent. Joey stood there and looked at it. Tamzin came out of the kitchen and saw her standing there. She didn't say anything. Joey folded the note and put it in her pocket. Then she got ready for work. 12 hours on her feet. Same as always. You ran away. I flew here from Seoul to find you. So where exactly are you going? Spring in Seoul came fast and left faster. Cha Jae-min stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of Cha Group's headquarters, 63 stories above the Han River, and watched the city go about its business. 3 months. Had been back for 3 months. Head returned to his desk, attended his meetings, nodded at the right moments in front of his father. The machine had kept moving, but his mind had never once been in Seoul. His assistant knocked. Mr. Shah, the 3 o'clock board meeting is ready. On my way. He straightened his tie and turned from the window. The Han River kept flowing. After the board meeting, his father asked to see him. Chairman Cha poured 2 cups of tea in his private office and sat across from his son without any preamble. He studied Jaemin for a while. Something happened in New York. Nothing worth mentioning. You don't look like a man with nothing worth mentioning. Jaemin set down his cup. His father's eyes were sharp, but his voice was even. Is it a woman? No answer. The chairman smiled small, knowing. It happens. But let me tell you something. He lifted his cup. Cold things go cold fast. Warm things last. If you understand that, you already know what to do. Jaemin looked at his father. The chairman said nothing more. He made his decision that night. In the back of his desk drawer was a folded piece of paper. A Queen's address had copied from the mailbox the night before he left. He smoothed it open and looked at it for a long time. Then he picked up his phone. Call the travel desk. I need the first flight to New York tomorrow. His assistant's voice came back startled, asking about the schedule. Jaemin kept it short. Move the board session to video. This is personal. New York was exactly as loud and bright as he'd left it. He took a cab straight from JFK to Queens and got out in front of a 3-story walk-up he recognized immediately. The spring air was still carrying a chill off the river. He looked up at the 3rd-floor window. Dark. She wasn't home yet. He sat on the front steps to wait. Suit, carry-on luggage beside him. A neighbour walking by gave him a long look. He didn't move. About an hour later, he heard footsteps from the direction of the street. He looked up. Joey. She stopped dead at the entrance. For a moment, she just stood there, staring at him on the steps. He stood up. His luggage was right there beside him, clearly not a day trip. She looked at the bag, then at his face, then at the bag again. You flew in from Seoul. Yes. Why? He looked at her directly. You ran away. I flew here from Seoul to find you. So where exactly are you going? Joey pressed her lips together. He came down the steps and stood in front of her. The spring wind moved through the space between them. I know everything. The accident. Being scared. Thinking what you did wasn't real. All of it. I know. And here I am. Joey looked at him for a long moment. Something rose in her chest. Not grief, not joy, just pressure. Like a door straining against its latch. She dropped her eyes to the sidewalk. We're from completely different worlds. I'm a waitress in Queens. I don't have a license. I hit you with a car. I know. That's all you've got? You know, end of story? He waited. He waited until she looked up. And when she finally did, he said, "That's not the whole story for me. That's why I'm standing here." Upstairs, Tamzin was watching from the third-floor window. Shed spotted them from across the room and pressed herself against the wall beside the glass, barely breathing. She watched Jay say something. She watched Joey finally lift her head. Tamzin made 2 fists. "Come on, Joey. Take it." She whispered it to a window no one else could hear. Then she pulled the curtain shut and stepped back into the apartment. That night, Jae-min slept on the couch again. Same blanket, pilled, worn thin at the edges, faintly smelling of fabric softener. He lay on his back and looked at the ceiling. In Seoul, his bedroom had a king-size bed, climate control, and soundproofed windows. This couch had a spring that dug into his left shoulder blade, and someone outside was running a siren. He fell asleep faster than he had in 3 months. They took their time. Jae-min waited outside the restaurant after her shifts. Joey walked home beside him through the Queen's evening, their footsteps matching pace without either of them deciding to. He told her about Seoul, the pace, the pressure, the way his family's name followed him into every room. She told him about growing up in Queens, the apartment shed shared with 4 people. The night shed decided to stay when everyone told her to go somewhere easier. Neither world had ever overlapped before. In the evening light off the sidewalks of Queens, they started to. One night, Joey put her hand out between them. Jae-min looked at it for just a second. Then he took it. Firmly. Behind them, Tamzin pumped her fist at the sky and said nothing. The day came when he had to go back. He was packing his bag when he looked up at her. "Come with me." Joey tilted her head. "To Korea, wherever. Just come." She looked out the window. Queens spread out below the diner, the walk-up, the flickering street lamp at the end of the block. All of it familiar. All of it hers. And something else now. Heavier than all of it put together. "I pack slow," she said. He smiled. She smiled. From the other room, Tamzin was already pulling Joey's suitcase out of the closet and rolling it into the middle of the living room floor. They arrived in Seoul at the end of May. Chairman Cha took one look at the woman his son had brought home and said nothing for a long moment. Joey said nothing either. They sat across from each other in the formal sitting room, while Jae-min positioned himself carefully in the middle. The chairman spoke first. "Do you speak English?" Joey nodded. "Korean? I'm learning." The chairman made a short sound through his nose, not quite a laugh, not quite dismissal. "Learning," he said. "All right." He picked up his tea. Jae-min recognized the gesture. It meant yes. They got married that autumn. The venue was small. Jae-min had suggested it first. Joey had agreed immediately. Tamzin flew in from New York and cried from the moment Joey walked down the aisle. Jae-min didn't take his eyes off her. When Joey reached him, she leaned in and said quietly, "What if I hadn't hit you that night?" He smiled. "We never would have met," she smiled back. While the officiant spoke, Joey's mind drifted briefly to that alley in Queens, the stuttering street lamp, the thud, the car door that wouldn't close right. The worst night of her life had handed her the best thing in it. The twins were born the following spring, 2 boys. Jae-min paced the hospital corridor for 30 minutes straight. Chairman Cha sat in a waiting chair and watched his son pace and allowed himself a quiet smile. When the nurse came out, Jae-min was through the door before she finished the sentence. Joey was exhausted, eyes half shut, voice worn down to nothing, but she smiled when he came in. He sat beside her and took her hand. The nurse brought the babies, one at a time. Did you pick names? Joey asked. He looked down at the one in his arms. Jay. Joey blinked. That's the name you gave me when I didn't have one. I want to keep it. She looked at him for a moment. Then she looked at the baby in her own arms. Then this one's Joey. He raised an eyebrow. That's your name. They're both good names. That evening, the hospital room was still. Jae-min stood at the window, Seoul spread out below in its spring nightscape, lights trailing along the river. Behind him, Joey had fallen asleep, with both babies tucked beside her. He watched the city for a while, then took out his phone and sent Tamzin a photo. Her reply came in under a minute. Oh my God! I'm an auntie! Calling Joey right now. He put the phone away and turned back to the room. Joey was asleep, the same face she'd had on that queen's couch, still and unguarded, carrying the weight of a life shed built on her own. He walked over and sat beside her. That night in Queens, a 25-year-old waitress named Joey Walker had loaded an unconscious stranger into the back of a borrowed car and driven into the dark, terrified and alone. The world had paid her back in the strangest possible way. She was asleep in Seoul now, and she was not alone. And the night outside was warm. That was enough. More than enough.